Top 3 books that have transformed my life and that can transform your life in the next 90 days. All right, you ready? So I'm gonna be breaking down for you the 3 books that have been the most impactful in my life. For those of you that don't know me or you just joined the channel, I'm a real estate investor. I was a real estate agent turned real estate investor, and I am a business owner and entrepreneur. My team is doing deals nationwide. We have a portfolio of properties, and I live my life by design. Everything I do virtual, I do remote, and I'm able to do that because I have transformed myself internally, and that has allowed me to grow in other areas of my business and really live a life that is in full alignment with who I am. So let's get right into it. I'm gonna be breaking down these 3 books for you in no specific order. I love all 3 of them, but these are books that have changed my mindset, my beliefs, and how I move in life. Some of them are related to mindset, some of them are related to personality traits, some of them are related to time management. No specific order, let's dive. All right, so let's get into the top 3 books that have transformed my life and that can transform your life in the next 90 days. Let's start with one that is related to mindset, mindfulness, and inner beliefs and our thoughts. So one of the most life-transforming books that I have ever read is The Untethered Soul. It's an amazing book. It's very much focusing on the way that we view our thoughts, how we relate to our thoughts. And the top 3 lessons that I learned from this book, number 1 is that I am not my thoughts. It's learning how to view my thoughts almost as like a second party and me just the observer of my thoughts. What that means is when we're going into a spiral, worry, and negativity, I have learned not to identify myself with those thoughts. It is just a thought, it is passing. I'm merely observing those thoughts passing through. And when I can learn to separate and detach from my thoughts, I don't get carried up in it, right? I don't get carried up in the worry, in the discomfort, in the self-criticism. All of that stuff is just a bystander passing by, and I can let it go. And I don't have to believe those thoughts to be true. This has been transformative for me. So I have a lot of tendencies to go into, which I'm sure a lot of us do, into worry or to go into self-criticism. And a lot of times I would identify myself with that self-criticism and I would think that I am those thoughts, right? And that would cause me to have self-sabotage, that would cause me to have inconsistency. I would have really great months. And then when I would have a sale or a deal that I didn't get, it would turn into a bad week, into a bad month. And what I realized is that it was just the way that I was interpreting the thoughts that were coming up or the self-criticism, instead of just separating myself from my thoughts, understanding that it's just a thought that's coming up and that it's not necessarily true, and being able to move through that, right? So the first thing is separating myself from my thoughts. Meditation has helped me a lot to detach from my thoughts because it allows me to sit in stillness and watch my thoughts pass by. So if you haven't tried meditation, please do. Not the meditation where you sit there and listen to guided meditation, even though that is great for relaxing. It's not great when it comes to really developing a relationship with mindfulness and your thoughts. The second thing that I learned from this book is that it is not the difficult things that we go through necessarily that create unhappiness. It is our response and our resistance to those negative things. For example, I have learned that in life, we go through difficult situations, right? I have dealt with grief. I have dealt with moving. I'm an immigrant. I came from Cuba into the United States, to a country that I knew nothing about. I had to learn a new language. I've had setbacks in business, setbacks in relationships, lost friendships, right? These are all things that everyone goes through, right? A lot of times we think that these things are just happening to ourselves and we're the only ones that are suffering. But in truth is, everyone goes through really difficult, challenging situations. But what happens when we go through a difficult situation is we create a story around it. We resist it. Like, we don't wanna just feel the emotions and let it pass. And that resistance, again, that situation that is happening is what does not allow us to process it, move forward, and just continue to a state where we're calm and content again. So it is not avoiding those difficult things, because we cannot avoid it. Life is life. We're always going to go through difficult things, but it is how we react and the stories we tell ourselves and how long we're sitting in that spiral of negativity when we go through a difficult situation. So just accept it. Bad things happen to all of us, right? And we have to learn to really build that emotional maturity to understand, hey, I'm going through this. Allow yourself to feel the emotions and let it pass. And that's how we process that emotion instead of sitting in that for an extended period of time. The third thing that I learned from this book is that what we seek is not outside of ourselves, right? And I know that's, a bit ironic coming from someone like me that's such a high achiever and I'm so goal driven and I've done so much stuff. But what I have learned is that a lot of times I am seeking that contentness, that happiness from exterior factors. Like, I want to reach this goal, I want to do this thing. And what I've noticed is that the feeling that I'm seeking is not external, it's internal, right? It's how I feel about where I am right now, the stillness, the peace that I feel within myself. A lot of times we forget that because there's so much noise and we're looking for that peace externally, but it's never gonna be externally, it's always gonna be internally. So it talks a lot about creating space to really sit with your thoughts, creating space to really be in the stillness, creating space to allow for peace, right? As I've grown more in business and I've matured as a person, I've realized that peace is what a lot of us seek, right? We think we want all of these external material things, but in reality, what we want is peace and love. And if we can learn to give that to ourselves every single day, yes, we can still have goals. I'm never gonna be okay with not having goals. It's just naturally who I am, but I can learn to not make that the only way that I can find joy and fulfillment in life, joy and fulfillment in life. So I can be okay with where I am in this moment and find peace and happiness within myself while still striving for more. So that book has completely transformed my life. If you haven't read it, please do. It's amazing. They have it in Audible, they have it in Spanish. I have recommended it to every single one of my friends. And the core message that stuck with me was, I am not my thoughts. And learning to view my thoughts as a bystander. It's almost like my thoughts are a different person. They are not me. And learning to separate myself from them has allowed me to have more awareness around my triggers and when those negative thoughts come up, how to deal with them in a constructive and healthy way. The second book that has transformed my life is Not Nice by Dr. Aziz. This is a book that I found later in life. I just read it, I believe, a year ago. And even at this stage of my career, I had so many aha moments of where was this book? And now I have all of my team members read it. I have all of my community members that I'm coaching read it because it's really transformative. The core concept of the book is that being nice as an identity is hurting you in many areas of your life. It's hurting you in your business, it's hurting you in your sales, it's hurting you in your personal relationships, and it's creating a lot of internal issues. So the one thing that he talks about is there's a difference between being nice and being kind. Being nice, or identifying with this identity of being overly nice, it comes from a place of fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of not being liked, fear of disapproval. And it's almost a defense mechanism, right? We're overly nice because we want everyone to like us, or we're overly nice because we're scared to speak up. So once I realized this, I was like, oh my God, in which areas in my life have I been overly nice? And a lot of the corrections were in the way I was behaving with family, and the way that I was behaving in a sales setting, and the way I was behaving with my team. So the core concept is, it's not about being nice, it's about being kind. Being kind means being honest with people, being able to have difficult conversations, right? Speaking up for yourself and what you believe in. Being nice in a sales setting, for example, means not asking for the close, not handling objections. When someone tells you, hey, I need to think about it, a nice person goes out of the house and says, yeah, of course I need to think about it, versus someone that is kind, that respects and values himself, is able to ask the difficult questions and be assertive and ask the seller, hey, what is it that you need to think about, and guide them through that. But because you're too nice, you don't ask for what you want, you don't speak up, and you're not willing to have those difficult conversations. So the first thing is, it's about letting go of that nice identity, because being nice really doesn't serve you. The second thing is learning to say no. Oh my God, has this been difficult for me in a business setting? I haven't necessarily struggled saying no a lot of times when it comes to, friends inviting me to go out to dinner. I'm very focused on my business and my goals. So if what you're inviting me to doesn't align with the person that I want to be, or it's in a date that it conflicts with one of my business things or my team meetings, it's very easy for me to say no. But the two areas where I was struggling to say no was in a business setting. Anytime anyone would ask me to speak, anytime someone needed my time, I just found myself saying yes, 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 yes. And what the book talks about is that not only is it exhausting to always say yes to people, you're also cheating yourself. It's making you unhappy, because your time is really valuable. And you saying yes to everything means that you don't value yourself and you don't value your time. So you're actually hurting yourself every single time that you say yes to something that doesn't align with you, or yes to something that doesn't feel good. So what it talks about is the idea that saying no is actually not selfish at all. It means that you truly care about yourself, but we have this idea in culture that, we have to say yes, and that if we don't say yes to people, we're not nice, we're not good people, that we're selfish. And selfishness, when it means protecting your space, protecting your energy, protecting your time, is actually really good and really safe. Because while saying yes might temporarily feel good, you build a lot of resentment against that person or the situation if it was something that didn't necessarily align with you and didn't feel good. So starting to say no is a principle and a habit that I have been practicing over and over again. But I realized, and I had this aha moment around how in business, I was letting my team take up my time. I was letting people asking for my time. And I felt this need to be overly available for people. And that was hurting me. It was creating chaos. I was feeling really overwhelmed, really stressed. And what I have learned is my time is really valuable, right? And I need to really take a moment and pause and reflect. Does this align with me, with my values, and how I want to spend my time today, next month, in the next 6 months, in the next year? And learning to say no has really helped me feel more at peace and not feel so overwhelmed and burnt out. Another lesson that I learned from this book is the disease to please, right? So how approval seeking, the need to be liked, the need to please people is hurting me. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate, right? The truth is that we're not gonna be liked by everybody. I've had to come to terms with that because innately I love humans and I like being liked and I like helping people. So the thought of someone not liking me or not liking something that I say, I would have nightmares and lose sleep over it, right? And one thing that I learned from this book and just from experience is that it's actually a skill that we have to develop, is being okay with people not liking us and being okay with people disagreeing with us. Because it's very easy to be fake nice and to always do things because we want people to like us and to agree with us. But that is exhausting and it's also impossible because there's many musicians that I personally don't like. There's no specific reason why I don't like them. I just don't like them, right? And the same thing is true with me. Not everyone is gonna like me. Not everyone is gonna like my beliefs, the way that I coach people, the principles, the business principles that I teach, and that's perfectly okay. But that was something that was really hard for me for a really long time to understand. So seeking approval, people pleasing, it's exhausting, it's impossible, and it's gonna make you miserable, right? And it also creates a lot of self-doubt, right? Because if I am firm in who I am, if somebody else has a negative thought around me or what I said, because I have a strong identity and I know who I am and I have confidence in myself, I'm not gonna let that affect me. But the moment we let every negative thing that somebody says affect us internally, we're gonna become miserable and we're always trying to course correct to please that person or to fix the image that that person has of me. So stop the people pleasing. It's okay to be disliked. It's okay. Not everyone is gonna like us, right? But just let's make sure that we feel good with who we are internally. That's all that matters. And the third life-changing book is a book on time management and procrastination. Yes, two things that we all struggle with, myself especially, and it's something that I've had to learn and train myself to get better at. The third book is a book on time management and procrastination, two of my biggest enemies in my career. And still to this day, it is something that on a daily basis, I strive to improve with. I'm not perfect. So what is this book? Is Eat the Frog by Brian Tracy. And here are the top 3 lessons that I learned about time management and procrastination. So number 1 thing is eat the frog. That is the concept of the book, right? Eat the frog. What he means by that, even though it's a silly way to phrase it, is that you gotta eat the frog first thing in the morning, meaning you have to do your most difficult task first. Why? Because when we don't do our most difficult tasks, we find ourselves doing like low-level activities like checking emails or doing tasks that don't move the lever forward. And there's a lot of avoidance and procrastination around the difficult tasks. Just humans, right? We don't like to do difficult things. We want to do easy things. So we have to train ourselves to just get the hard thing out of the way. And then the rest of the day becomes easier. And you also learn to build confidence in yourself. You build resilience. So for me, difficult tasks usually tend to be difficult conversations. So difficult conversations with my team, difficult conversations with sellers, difficult conversations with tenants, even difficult conversations in my personal relationships, right? Anything that I'm feeling some sort of resistance around and that I know I have a tendency to procrastinate on, I'm gonna do it first thing in the morning. 9 a.m., as soon as I come in, I'm gonna have that difficult conversation or do that difficult task and get it out of the way. That is the one lesson that I've learned, and I every single day when I start my day. Second thing I learned in this book is the 80-20 rule. And I also had read this in another book, but this just reinforced the idea. It means that 20% of your activities produce 80% of your results. What that means that on a daily basis, weekly basis, you really only have 20% that you need to focus on. And the rest, if it's not something that moves the lever forward, that moves revenue forward, you can either delegate it or just choose not to do it at all because it's not gonna have the biggest impact in your business. So when I read this, I made a list of all the activities I do on a daily basis and a weekly basis, and I had to highlight. The second thing that I learned was the 80-20 rule, which means that 20% of our activities produce 80% of our results. So what that means is that really only 20% of what we do on a day-to-day basis really has a huge impact in our business and our goals. The other 80%, either we don't have to do it or we don't have to do it right away, or we can delegate it. So once I realized this, I started to think like, what are my 20%, right? What are those tasks for me? And I made a list, and it came down to the most important things for me in my business are bringing in deals and opportunities. So sales conversations with motivated sellers to close, so closing. And the second thing was leading my team. So doing meetings with my sales team to coach them and make them better, doing meetings with my admin team, doing meetings with my other teams in my different businesses. So that leadership component was what allowed me to grow my business through others, and also me bringing in sales and bringing in revenue. So once I knew that that was true, I started creating systems to delegate everything else, right? So anything that wasn't important, that was an admin task, or that could be done by someone else that didn't require a lot of skill, I delegated it. So once I did that, I had less things that I focused on a day-to-day basis, and it made me more productive. And I was able to grow the business. Now we hired new salespeople, so now I'm focused more on the sales leadership side of things. So doing that 20% has allowed me to grow and has allowed me to scale, and I'm less overwhelmed because I found myself with a lot of tasks that didn't really matter, and I could never finish the task. Every single day there was more stuff piling up. But when I really digested it, I realized that it wasn't that important, and it was really only 20% that I had to focus on. So that made me be more productive, way easier. The third thing that I learned is how to organize my days. So one thing that's really important is using my calendar for time blocking. I was already doing that, but one thing that I was not doing is organizing my tasks the day before. So usually I was coming into work and I had my team meetings, I had a bunch of tasks that I had to do, I had sales calls, I had a lot of things being thrown my way. And there was a bit of anxiety starting the day because I just didn't know where to start. Versus what I learned after reading the book is plan your activities the night before. So that way you know the next day what you have to focus on, and you don't need to spend the first 30 minutes to hour of your day trying to figure out what to focus on. You already can jump right into it. It creates a lot less anxiety around the next day, and you're just more organized, more structured. So what I do now is I actually use a Trello board, which I did a video, and I'm gonna do it again on how I organize my day, how I organize my tasks, how I time block my calendar. See, hopefully that's helpful for you guys, but I actually use a Trello board, and I put all of my tasks that I have to complete today, all my tasks that I have to complete this month, and all the tasks I have to complete this week. And then I organize it by level of priority. So high priority tasks go first, and those are the ones that I focus on every single day. I have medium priority tasks, and then I have low priority tasks. So the low priority tasks, eventually what I end up doing is delegating them, because if they're low priority, I don't need to be spending my time on it. And then I end up focusing on high priority tasks. And the medium priority tasks, if I can't do it that day, I push it off to the next day. It's top of mind, but every single day I always think, what are the one or two things that I need to get done today that are gonna move revenue forward and my business forward? And those end up being my high priority tasks. That's what I focus on every single day. All right, so top 3 lessons from this book were time management and procrastination, how to avoid it by eating the frog, doing the hardest things first. Second thing is that 80-20 rule, focusing on the 20% high revenue generating activities, delegating the rest or just not doing the rest, and also planning my days the night before so that I can stay focused the next day, and it eliminates a lot of anxiety around all the different things that I have to do. So if you want to transform your life in the next 90 days, these 3 books are going to be a game changer. So if you want to learn how to deal with negative thoughts, negative emotions, The Untethered Soul is the book for you. These 3 books were life-changing for me. And if you want to change your life in the next 90 days and become a better version of yourself, make more money than you ever have, and live a happier life, read them right now. Pick them up today. If you want to master the inner game of thoughts, The Untethered Soul is the best book. If you want to learn time management, Eat the Frog. If you want to learn how to stop being nice, how to ask for what you want and stop people pleasing, Not Nice is a book for you. All right, so stop what you're doing today. Go read those books right now. Before you do that though, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about real estate investing, financial freedom, entrepreneurship, life, abundance, and happiness. That's what we talk about here. All the amazing things, especially when it comes to building wealth and passive income and real estate investing. So subscribe, do it now. Get the books later, but subscribe now. All right, see you on the next one.